Today I'm reacting to Mark Zuckerberg's watch collection. Never thought I was gonna say this.
Been making moves recently?
Mark has been making insane moves. Mark Zuckerberg never showed wealth. He never wore watches.
It was until that Ananta Bani wedding.
Yeah.
The watch is fantastic.
I know, I told him that already.
That is so cool.
You know, I never
Who
really
makes
wanted to get a watch, but after seeing that, I was like, you know, watches are cool.
I might want that.
That's when he started being spotted with watches. But his collection is insane. And I've never seen anyone going into the watch game like he did. He's cool now. Like, I want to be like that, make that transformation. How old is he actually? He's 40 years old. There's still hope for me. Before we get into Mark's collection, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And next to that, if you want to buy a watch or sell your watch, brideandpinion.com. We sell all sorts of watches from Casio to Richard Mille. And if you want to buy a watch personally from me, hit me up on the Instagram account at brideandpinion or send me an email, Leonard at brideandpinion.com.
You really need to paint that wall. I don't know what's happening in here.
Do people see that?
People complain about it.
Sorry people, we're gonna paint the wall. If you buy a watch from us, we're gonna paint the wall.
I'm actually going to pay for it.
Let's get stuck in the video. First time I saw Mark wearing a watch was the Patek Philippe Chronograph 5236 in platinum. An insane watch. Are you showing me a photo here with Zuki and wearing that?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, good.
It's on the other side though.
This one.
Yeah.
Good. Absolute insane watch that is actually based on a pocket watch of Patek Philippe. In 2021, they based their new wristwatch, the 5236, on that pocket watch. It's actually cool if you can Google that or put the photo of on this one.
Yeah.
If you look at the reference number 699 or even the 844, you see basically that watch in the form of a pocket watch, of course with a different dial, because back in the day they weren't very colorful. Now we are. A lot of people always ask, why are watches so expensive? But when you turn over this watch, you see the true craftsmanship. And I want to talk about that a wee bit more in the next watch, because that allows me to give you a better example. This Patek Philippe is the absolute bollocks. And I must say, they launched the Cubitus. That for me absolutely knocked the brand 3 steps backwards. When I look at this watch and look at a photo of that watch, I'm like, that's the real Patek Philippe. When you see prices of Richard Mille, or when you see prices that people paid for Daytonas back in the day, this watch would actually be considered a bargain at in and around the $85,000 mark, because that's how much they're going for right now. The retail, I think, is a wee bit higher, but the actual resilient value sits in about the $85,000 mark. For me, Patek Philippe is like the father of the perpetual calendar. I know they aren't, but looking at the history of Patek Philippe, it was the first ever full production complication of Patek Philippe. It wasn't just the perpetual calendar, it was the perpetual calendar chronograph. Before that, Patek Philippe made complications, but only on special order. They just made time-only watches for the public. If you were very important or special, or you had a lot of money, you could have ordered something very special. But I believe that the perpetual calendar chronograph was the first ever complicated production Patek Philippe. I absolutely love that watch. That would be one of the watches I would love personally. But if I look at the next watch really blew my mind. It's the FP Journe, the François Paul Journe Centigraph Sport in aluminium. That blew my mind.
Tinfoil?
Let me explain. That watch he bought pre-owned, because that watch was discontinued in 2014 and it was only in production for 2 years. However, I believe in 2011 there was an auction where number 1 of this watch was sold and it fetched up about $500,000, something around that. A watch made out of aluminium. The movement made out of aluminium. Absolutely insane. The watch weighs like 55 grams. The reason why this Centigraph, specifically the one in aluminium, was only in production for 2 years was because of the headache and the complexity of making watches with aluminium. FP Journe makes the cases themselves, right? They do everything themselves. I'm just wondering where he buys his watches and who advises him, because it's such a random watch if you think about it. As far as I know, there were 133 made in aluminium, but there was also a version with a rubber strap and bracelet. In total 133. When they struggled with production of the case and the movement and the bracelet and everything, they stopped production in 2014 and changed it to titanium. It looked exactly the same, but it was more darker for the eye, if you know what I mean. But forget about the materials and the rarity of that watch. The movement is bloody insane. You can measure 1/100th of a second with that movement, meaning you can measure distance and speed from 6 kilometers an hour to 3,600 kilometers an hour. That's mind-blowing. This is why FP Journe is so famous. But also, he is a wee bit nuts himself, but I'm talking about his watches. I don't want to talk about him. Personally, for me, it's not the nicest watch on the planet. I've had that watch on my wrist. I'm not a big fan. I do understand why people love it, and let me tell you that from a watchmaking perspective, this is absolutely crazy. And this is also why I think that FP Journe, or François-Paul Journe, is known as the father of independent watchmaking. He made way for a lot of watchmakers starting their own brand, because they were sick and tired of those big brands not listening to their customers and not giving the actual engineers and the actual watchmakers the freedom to make what they actually love. Watches for me very difficult to value. The last one I've seen in auction was a couple of years ago, and it went in and around the $90,000. This watch is significantly worth more. I would actually value this in around the $150,000, but there's none on the market at the moment, so it's really difficult to see. I, as a dealer, would pay $150,000. DB Tune, DB25, bought that watch pre-owned as well. You can't just go to DB Tune and say, I want a watch. That doesn't work like that. It will take a long time to produce a DB Tune. But all of a sudden I see Mark Zuckerberg from Patek Philippe to FP Journe to DB Tune in less than like 6 months. Their watches are actually bloody insane. And if you look at the DB25, this exact watch, and if you look at this photo, the dial represents the sky. All these dots represent stars. This is literally how the stars were, how the sky looked the day DB2 was founded. That's how the sky looked like, and that's what it makes reference to. But I think, if I'm correct, and I don't know if I am, but I believe I am, you can also get a DB25 from basically important moments from your life. They will make the dial exactly how the sky was at that date and time. And I love that idea. And I would love to do that with when my kids were born. I would love to do that. However, they're very expensive. So I need to make more YouTube videos, or you need to buy more watches from Pride & Pinion. I never really promote Pride & Pinion, but we do sell the most incredible watches in the world. I want to make sure that everyone buys their watches from Pride & Pinion, even Zuck. But that is absolutely bonkers, mate. That watch is the absolute bollocks. Of course, the watch is worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it. If you have your own dial with your own sky, it is worth significantly more to you because it means more to you. You can buy a DB25 Starry Sky for about $75,000 to $90,000, I would say. PrideandPinion.com. Let's talk about special. Let's talk about very special. Let's talk about the new drop of IFL watches with my favorite watch brand, near enough favorite, one of my favorite peoples. Man, I love the brand, as you know. I am so proud to see that IFL and Man, two dear friends of mine, collaborated and created this insane watch. The Man Manhattan. Genuinely one of my favorite releases of the entire year. This watch is only available in a window of 24 hours. After that, it's gone. It's cut off time because every single dial is hand painted, making every single watch unique. So you have to make a decision within 24 hours of this video releasing. My favorite drop by IFL watches ever. First link in the description. Don't miss out. This is your chance. Mark, this is God tier. You should add this to your collect. Can you imagine? Mark Zuckerberg buying that. 5822p. I actually sold one of the first ever Cubitus in platinum. I sold this AI generated watch. Someone within Patek Philippe, 100% done this. Went to ChatGPT, asked, mix a Cartier Santos with a Patek Philippe Nautilus, but I like the dial of the 5712. Please make it together. In like 10 years from today, we will hear the truth about the release of the Cubitus. Cherry Stern will come out and state, ha, I fooled all of you guys. I was ahead of the game. This is the first AI generated watch, the Cubitus. I had the watch on my wrist. I delivered the watch to its new owner, to one of the first people to ever own that watch, but I still believe it's fake. I still believe it's fake news. Like, I had the thing on my wrist. I delivered it on a private jet of a very dear client of mine.
Flex.
That's what we do at Pride & Pinion. Sleep was his jet, not mine.
Customer.
To every customer.
Hand deliver your watch.
On a private jet. We talked a lot about the Cubitus in the tier list video. Watch that at some point whenever the watch was just launched that week. Every authorized dealer already had them. And of course the ADs played the really ridiculous game. You need to come for an interview before we sell you this watch. So many of my clients texted me and they were like, I don't even want the watch. Why are you calling me? I don't want to go on an interview for your watch. By the way, I am not hating on the Cubitus. It's actually a nice looking watch on the wrist, to be honest. But I cannot unsee a Nautilus in it, and that really pisses me off. It's just a lack of creativity. That's my problem. But more about the Cubitus in the tier list video. It's somewhere in one of the other shameless plugs I've done. Whenever the watch was just launched, which was a couple of weeks ago, the watch was swapping hands at about $150,000. Keep in mind, that's a new Patek Philippe. That wasn't really that much over RRP, to be honest. But they literally flooded the market with them. Today, it sits in around the $125,000 $125,000. I actually expect that this watch next year will go below retail. So the current value sits in around $125,000. The FP Journe Chronometre Souverain. This is the Havana, mate. Havana is the dial, by the way, because there's several variations of this watch, including several sizes of this watch. But this is really cool. Let me explain why watches are expensive, and I would like you to put a photo of a movement, in particular this movement. You see, every bevel, every side, everything is hand finished to perfection. It takes so much time to create a movement like that, and it takes even more time to finish that movement to perfection, that it looks like something that is spotless, something that is a piece of art. And that makes watches so expensive. This watch is made in platinum with a platinum case and a full gold movement, I believe, if I'm correct, a full rose gold movement. This is a mechanical watch, and for those who know mechanical watches, some which have a power reserve that indicates how much power is left in your watch before you need to wind it. This watch works different. This watch displays the reserve or the number from which it was wound off. Chronometers were used to navigate on sea, proper navigation clocks. And what you needed was accurate timekeeping to measure longitude. So it needed to be very accurate, yeah? To see if your chronometer was still accurate, you wound the watch exactly 24 hours. So what you wanted to see was the time when it was last wound up. That's what you see here. When you see 24, it means it was wound up 24 hours ago. It actually works the opposite way than every other power reserve indicator and every other watch. I really like this watch. It was made in two sizes, in 38, which was discontinued first, and the 40 millimeter. It's a hefty watch, but it's one of the most beautiful watches I think FP Journe has ever made. It's one of the more simpler FP Journes ever created. The value sits at about the $85,000, $90,000. You can buy one in and around that range. I wouldn't consider them rare. You can buy one tomorrow if you really want to. They're available on the market. But it's just a really cool watch, and it's cool to see him wearing that. I have never seen anyone starting his collection like that, and I'm very, very curious to see where this is going. Mark Zuckerberg just buys real watches with real importance and supports independent watch brands while he's at it. I love that. If there's ever a possibility that Mark Zuckerberg watches this video, or anyone that knows Mark Zuckerberg personally, if there's any way, shape or form a possibility we could make a video with Mark Zuckerberg, that would be the most insane thing YouTube has ever seen in our industry. I'm wondering if we could make that happen.